Break it? It's a little creaky. Maybe I did break it. Oh.
You're ridiculous. So last night we had our lovely dinner, our family dinner.
Sure, it's lovely.
We have, what is it, 4? Is it 4 of us or 3 of us?
4 families.
We have 4 families, and we take turns having family dinner
Yeah.
every other week.
every other week.
And so we, of course, had our famous. Infamous or famous?
Infamous. We are far
Depends
from famous.
on the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Infamous/famous discussions, round tables. And, of course, we had some last night.
We sure did.
And this is exactly where all of this stemmed from, is our family dinners and discussing all the things.
Are you exhausted?
I am exhausted. Takes a lot out of you.
I'm aware.
Why? I don't understand why we get those faces.
What
Yeah,
faces?
lovely dinner. I'm aware. It sounds like
Those are
you're
the faces
having a
I
horrible
have.
time.
I'm not having a horrible time.
Uh-huh. So what is it that you think after our family dinners and discussions?
I think some people talk a lot. And I don't know that I really go away thinking about it.
You don't?
Not unless something particularly odd came up, but
Do you?
Depends on the topic. Yeah. Some
Yeah.
of it gives me a lot to think about. Some of it, I'm like, ugh, and I move on. It just depends.
That's true.
Or it's like, I can't believe that came out of that person's mouth. But
do you
okay.
go away every time with deep in thought about what we just discussed?
I'm the type of person that will replay shit in my head.
I'm not.
Especially if I'd said something
Inappropriate.
like I was an ass or something, yeah.
Mm.
Or if I said something because my feelings got hurt or something
Oh.
was heightened, then I'll replay and it's annoying. But then there's sometimes like, can you believe this is what we talked about? Or can you believe that was a long ass conversation about this very tiny subject?
That's true. We do go on some tangents.
We do.
A lot of times we talk about the same thing.
Mm.
It's the same subject. Somehow we're talking about it again, and it seems like we're talking about it differently, but it really is the same subject.
Or we had the conversation in a smaller setting and then we bring it up in the larger setting. So it might seem like a repeat in that way. But in general, I think we just have shit that happens in our life that week and somebody will bring it up and we chit chat about it.
Okay.
And that's what prompted all of this.
Yeah.
That's where we're here.
Talk about shit.
Talk about shit and different perspectives and
Yeah.
learning different views. And sometimes you win people over. Sometimes you're like, nope, that motherfucker's nuts.
And sometimes you realize you were wrong
Yes.
or didn't have the full picture.
I don't think I've ever gone away with that.
Do you ever feel bad when you're done?
Nope, I don't think I have. I don't know if I'm just a little more democratic in the way I speak in the group setting than other people. So but I can't really say that I've I think I stepped over a line there.
Mm.
I think I've purposefully not done that. That's my 2 thoughts, 2 cents.
2 thoughts. That's all you got in
That's
there.
all I got. That's all I got is 2 thoughts. I gave them all out yesterday.
All right, so that's why we're here, people. So welcome back to another episode of the Unlikely Podcasters. I'm Sunshine.
I'm Susanna.
Tara.
And this week's episode, we're going to chit-chat about family.
And family.
That's right.
Family.
Yeah.
I looked it up. That's what it's
It's
called.
a thing.
It's a thing.
Blood's thicker than water is some of the saying, but
That's
we're
what they
talking
say.
about people that become your family and you weren't.
You're not blood related.
No,
Yes.
right. Which is most of what we have at this point.
Yes.
Is non-blood related.
What my friend likes to call our own little cult here in Colorado. We made our own
Colorado's
little.
the place to do it. If you want to start a cult.
That's true. But we've kind of made our own little makeshift family, and we, as we said before in a previous episode, was it the intro episode?
I think we did.
About
That we all moved here
Yeah, we all moved
to help Colorado.
to help Colorado. We helped Colorado out. But
They need our state income
They
tax.
love when more people. They love when more people come here.
but the fact that, you know, you don't find that every time when I tell that story to people, they're like, oh my gosh, that is just
Yes,
the greatest thing.
The same. Yeah.
And they're like, I wish I could do that with my family. My family's all over the country. Granted, when I don't say, because you and I are not blood related, I just say my sister, the sentiment still behind it is that the entire family was able to move together. But I fully consider everyone here family.
I agree.
And so even with your sisters,
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about them, I don't say my sister-in-law. I say my sisters.
Mm.
Biologically, I do have 5 brothers. I have 3 brothers and myself from my biological mother. And then I have 2 more brothers and myself with my biological father. And what is your history?
I have 2 half sisters and myself.
Oh, that's true. So yeah, technically, I don't have any full siblings. I have all half siblings. And what's your background? How many? 8,000 siblings.
Listen, I have 3 more than you. So
Okay.
yeah, take a step back. Okay.
Okay.
There are 8 of us. I'm somewhere in the middle. Well, there's 3 of us that are full.
Same parents.
Same
Full-blooded.
parents. Yeah. And then the rest are half.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But even then, I've never said
Yeah, I don't either.
they're my siblings. They're not
Yeah.
half. I don't
Yeah.
understand. That's not something that I can relate to.
But even like, so I had my biological mother, but my father's frisky. He had multiple wives.
Yeah.
Not at the same time. Let me preface
Okay.
that. Not at the same time. But he married my mother. Then he was married to my stepmom for 20 years. And for all intensive purposes, she's my mother. Even though I never could bring myself to call her mother, in my brain, she raised me. She treated me like her own. And when I talk to my brothers that are her children, I say mom,
Yeah.
even though I don't physically call her mom. Yeah. But then the other wives, I will say my stepmom, which is weird as an adult. You say stepwife.
You've had many of them. I don't know
I
why
know.
it would be weird.
I think it is stepmom number 1
Yeah.
in this corner.
But now, like, if I'm talking to somebody,
You say my parents.
my parents, I'll call my dad and his current wife my parents.
Yeah.
But then my stepmom that I consider my mom, I will still call her mom when I'm talking to other people.
Right.
You don't have to make that face.
I mean, that's like, when you talk about it that way, I guess if you don't know,
Yeah.
I think it's like, West Virginia and the hill country kind of people. This is my mom and my sister.
Yeah.
Like it's all encompassed in the same person.
Concumbsed. What's concumbsed? What's concumbsed?
You wait when you're asleep, you're going to get encompassed. You're going to be like, oh, that's what that was. How about that?
Susanna's going to be
I'm going to concump you right up the head. Boom. I want to say it. Concump.
You made me snort. Knock it off.
But let's go back.
Okay.
So, a little history.
Mm.
I do believe that you can have family that aren't your family, obviously. Because Susanna is my sister. Her brother is my brother. And when I talk about their children, I say my niece is. There's 2. I was going to say my niece and nephew, but there's no nephew.
No.
So I say my nieces. But even when Asher was little,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, well, no, Susanna and Marcos are going to be Aunt Susanna and Uncle Marcos. You're like, but they're not.
Yes.
It wasn't that you were saying that they shouldn't, but she used to make fun of me and say that like a random person off the street, I would call Aunt and Uncle. I'm like, no, this is way different.
Well, because she had all these aunts and uncles, and I'm like, but I'm pretty sure they're not related to anybody in your family. And our family didn't work that way.
Right.
Because we had a shit ton of people. My grandmother had 3 kids, but they had kids. Then my aunt had 6 kids, and then those 6 kids had multiple kids. So when we got together, it was a large group of people. So I couldn't fathom having random people. I had
And
enough.
it's not random.
That's enough family.
Well, people who weren't, I mean, I had enough aunts and uncles and whatever. I didn't need to just from the outside world bring more in.
Yeah.
So that was foreign to me that you had a person who was not your relative that you called an aunt
Or an uncle, yeah.
or an uncle. That was
Yeah.
just weird. I don't have that with anybody. There's nobody who is not blood related to me in some fashion that I refer to as an aunt or an uncle.
But you have nieces that refer to
Yes,
you
I
as
know,
aunt
but I
now.
didn't say niece, did I? Okay.
So,
Well, we've clearly brought her over to the dark side. So it's
clearly,
fine.
yes. My dad's best friend, he was always my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know for a long time that he wasn't blood related anyway. It didn't dawn on me. And then I figured it out, and I still called him. To this day, I still call him uncle.
Yeah.
I think my dad had a friend. It was Parker. I never called him uncle, but he was probably as close as I could get to an uncle because my dad had one brother and two sisters, right? So, but they weren't close. So I saw them on holidays. And my uncle, I met like twice in my life. So they really weren't,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't aunts and uncles. And then on my mom's side, I had, there's 11 of them. So I had a lot of aunts and uncles.
Mm-hmm.
For my family, your family was family.
Mhm.
People that weren't your family weren't your family.
Mhm.
And that's just how, even if they were close friends, that's fine. They were close friends, but it wasn't like, oh, well, they're family. It didn't work that way. So
To
there's no way
me-
some rogue person would come out and you would call them an aunt or uncle because they're not family. And some people still have that mentality. It's like,
Yes.
oh, your blood is your family,
Mhm.
whether they fuck you over 14 times or not. That's your
Mhm.
family. And I don't subscribe to that bullshittery.
Mm-hmm.
Because why would you, just because you were forced to be bonded to this person, they get to treat you poorly or be a bad person, and you just have to put up with that because you share a bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really make much sense to me. So obviously we have all cut ties with certain real family to make the real Colorado family peeps, as
That's right,
our
yeah.
text says.
That's right. So yeah, when I was 18, I haven't spoken to my biological mother since I was 18. I'm not going to go into all those details, but trust me, it was an ordeal, and I begged for it not to happen, but it happened. And when someone says something, so in general, I will say, my stepmom, the original OG stepmom,
Right.
is my mom. And so if I talk about parents, that's what I'll say. But if I get into a deeper conversation with someone, I will say, well, I don't have a relationship with my biological mom. And
Right.
it is infuriating when someone says, but that's your mom, but you don't know the whole
Right.
issue. And so, yes, I agree. But it was something I struggled with for a while. And there are some people that view things, okay, blood is thicker than water. You never blah, blah, blah. And you never blah.
Yeah.
Whatever. And
You
then
never
there's
blah.
never blah.
Never blah.
You never want to blah.
Remember that, listeners.
No
You never
lying.
blah.
But then there's people that will just cut off people in their family right and left like it's like they're changing their underwear. And
Yeah.
it's ridiculous too. I do feel that if you should not be forced into a relationship with someone just because they're blood related. But at the same time, I don't think that you should give up on relationships so easily
Mhm.
and just say, well, I'm going to stop talking to you for a couple of years. I had that
Right.
multiple times in my life, which is just silly to me. And I never understood it. To this day, I don't understand it. And I hope we will never instill that in
Yeah.
our child. Susanna and I have been friends, sisters, whatever you want to call it, but we have never gone through a period where we were mad at each other enough to not speak to each other. Yes, I got mad at this bitch because she's a hooker.
Yeah.
But she's got mad at me. And so we will just get mad, and we will, a day or two goes by, and, she will make fun of me and say, I need to talk shit through. It's because I care so much about her that I want
Right.
to talk through that situation with her
Right.
and come out on the other end. But there's never been a time where I said, fuck that bitch, I'm never talking to her again. Never. And it's never happened with you either. And I think it's asinine when people do that. Do you consider Susanna a sister? Oh, look here. Look at here. Look at here.
Are you about to hurt my feelings?
I don't know.
I don't know. You won't. It's okay.
No, I don't.
Do you consider her
Sometimes I barely consider my sisters my sisters.
That's true.
So,
But do you view her like as like my sister?
yes.
That's what
So you're like a
that's
cousin.
like a sister-in-law,
Like a
type of-
cousin. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have the same relationship
Yeah, I
that
know.
you have.
I
So
know.
it's not quite the same. Yeah. Like my sisters are my sisters because that's just what they are.
Mhm.
But it's again, we don't have in-depth conversations, and
There's an age
between
difference.
my one sister, it's 12 years, and between my last sister, it's 20. So the growing up period, I was 20. I was living a whole different adult life. So I didn't grow up with my sisters like that. They were children who I watched. So I don't really have whatever that sister, there's the sisters who go shopping, and my one sister, we go out, every once in a while, but it's not like we're texting every day and chatting and sharing our day. But I don't really do that. I don't do that with
anybody,
you unless
yeah.
you make me, because you've asked me things. Yeah, thank you. Fingers. I got fingers coming at me.
Mhm.
That's just not my personality. I'm not a chatty
Well,
person
yeah, I was just gonna say.
in the general sense.
Well, yeah, but you also don't have, aside from like female best friends out there.
Nope.
That's just not you.
Nope.
Mhm.
Nope. I mean, I did when I was younger. But I didn't. A lot of the things that they talked about just were not interesting to me. I mean, I liked boys and I had crushes, but it was never like that. Oh my God, I have a boyfriend. Why don't I have a boyfriend? And I'm like, right? But if you get one, you give. If you don't, you don't. But it was like, so dire and crying. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you? So I would end up gearing towards more girls who were not so in need of that. And they were usually smart people, kind of nerdy, but that wasn't their intent. They weren't out on the prowl. And so I liked those people more because those conversations were less about what am I going to wear? What am I going to do my hair? It was more like just regular stuff.
These things you couldn't relate to because that just
Yeah,
wasn't your
I
thing.
didn't care
it
about my
wasn't your
hair. I mean,
thing,
I
that's
did
right.
it because it was like, that's what people did, right? I plastered it, I feathered it, and it was sprayed.
Feathered.
The birds would not penetrate them. But it wasn't, I just did it because that's what you did when you were in the 80s and you went to junior high school.
But what about like I'm on a business trip and you need help?
And I need help.
You need help
What
with
kind of
whatever.
help do I, it depends on the help I need will be the person depending upon the person who I call.
But you would have no problem calling Susanna and say, "Hey, I need
No.
you to come over." And
No, if I've cut my arm off, I would call you to please come help me. I've cut my arm off.
I would hope so. I'm the closest one to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, am I sitting like you weren't going to hurt my feelings? Because I know we're not best
Right,
friends, but we
right.
do have it's a close relationship nonetheless. It's
yes.
just not the same as you and I. Yeah. I mean, when you have family or not everybody is as close to the other, that's just kind of the dynamic that tends to happen. But you still know you can count on them. You still know you can
Right.
rely on them. So
Yeah.
that's all that matters.
But I'm
I
just
think.
not going to be bearing my soul. I don't think I did that with any of my friends. I had a best friend I had one that was a female for a long time, and we would talk about things, but it wasn't like, and the same thing after that went away. I had a male best friend for a long time, and we hung out all the time, but it was never this, we never had deep conversations, and just you're the only person that I have this with.
Lucky me. Yay.
I can keep him inside.
Oh, shut
See?
up.
Yeah.
More fingers.
More fingers.
But do you understand it now? Are you
I don't know that I would do it now as an adult person, but I understand it for our children.
Mhm.
And I understand that, yes. And I think I started to understand it with your nephews that live in another state,
Yep.
because we spent a lot of time with them. But I don't think for me that it's something that I could do that.
then it also opens the door. So you're the family dynamic culture, whatever you want to call it in your family, they had a very hard time letting people in.
Yes.
Except for this fucking bitch.
I waltzed
She
right
infiltrated
in.
very quickly.
I did.
And I still think it's because I laid the carpet.
Probably.
I
but
don't think I've ever heard that. I've laid the carpet. It's usually I've laid the groundwork or but I've laid the carpet.
Whatever the fuck, you know what I mean?
It's rolled out the carpet
And laid the groundwork.
and laid the groundwork.
Whatever.
We're gonna merge it. I laid,
Laid
the
the ground.
carpet.
That's right. I laid the carpet down for her and her brother.
Yes.
And so, but it took me, I mean, like, your mother accepted me.
Well, there
And
was also the point of if you have stolen me,
That's true.
because I lived at home and then Sunshine was in a predicament as to if she couldn't find a roommate, she was going to be forced to live in Oklahoma. Oh, yeah. Well, you did not want to live in
I
Oklahoma. So I
That's
said, well,
right.
let me see what I can do. Let me go home and do my finances on my McDonald's big $4.25 an hour. I think I was making $6.25 an hour at that point.
Ooh, the big butts.
And-
And
right?
yeah, so then I was like, okay, I think I can swing this. So to my mother, she is the reason that I left the house. So that, I think right there, you had like 27 marks against you.
Yes.
And then you had to overcome those.
I did.
Because you have taken Tara Pie Superstar
Mm-hmm.
from her mother.
And your grandmother, she was a hard nut to crack also.
Well, she's a hard nut to crack in general.
Yes.
Plus,
And
there
I
were
don't think I-
stories about you,
Yes,
you know.
and I don't think I ever cracked it fully until the very end.
Until the very end. And then I
Yes.
think you did crack it, yes.
Yes.
Because she wanted to give you money.
Yes.
So that's how you know you cracked it with the
With
Nana.
her.
the Nana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's willing to give you money. You're in.
You're in. Even my family, there were some people in my family that were annoyed with your presence.
Oh, mhm.
And they tried to say, well, you know, she's not family. Why the heck? Blah, blah, blah.
How many people are we talking about?
A couple. So my biological mother made a comment. Then my brother.
Right. We all know how I felt about that one.
Uh-huh. And basically that, I think if the others said it or thought it, they never said it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the same thing with your family.
the
They
same
said the
thing.
same thing about
I think
us?
they're still saying it.
yeah.
Oh, yes, they are. So from my end, my perspective, let's see. So out of the 8 of us, I talk on a consistent basis with two of them. So at some point in the process, I ended up raising both of them. Or they came to live with me. So I didn't like raise them. But yes, at some point when they were older, they came to live with me until they were 18. And then they were out on their own. And one of them I helped while they went to college. And they
Yeah.
still lived with me back and forth. So I'm the closest with them too. And the other relationships are either strained or we don't talk for lots of reasons that we're not going to get into. They don't understand how this is now my family,
Mm-hmm.
and they are less so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a gradual process, and then I know that anybody in this particular family group now I could call, I can rely on.
Yeah.
They have been there for me time and time and again, and I hope I've been there for them as well. So
It seems like some of your family had an expectation of you were just supposed to do certain things.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So half Mexican. So there's the whole dynamic there of, you've got to help your family. It's, my mom had a lot of expectations. It's, you got to take care of me. You've got to do even though she didn't really need it and she currently doesn't need it. It's just, you all have to take care of me now. I don't know if she's always aware of it either, but it's
Right.
just,
It's probably a generational.
Yeah, I
That's
was
it's
just
probably
gonna
what-
say,
generational,
it
it's
is a
cultural,
generational, uh-huh.
it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I am not close to a lot of my family as a result of, just I'd had enough. I didn't arbitrarily choose to not speak. They got plenty of opportunities, plenty.
Right.
And at one point, there was no more opportunities.
Mhm.
And I am that kind of a person. I will acknowledge that when I'm done, I'm done.
Mhm.
If I've reached my limit and I said, okay, I'm done with this person, it is, I think, almost impossible for you to come back in and get into my good graces and have an open, trusting relationship again.
Especially if you don't see any difference.
Right.
Exactly.
In that
That's
person.
the thing. Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's say, I get into a disagreement with you. I respect you enough that I'm going to come back and we're going to work it out, blah, blah, blah. Without the fear of you saying, you know what, I'm done, I'm walking away
Right.
forever. And so even with one of my brothers, we had a few bouts of cutting me off, letting me back in, cutting me off, letting me back in. So then one of the bouts of time, my brother and I were speaking, and he invited us over for Thanksgiving. And in my brain, I struggled for a moment. How do I say?
Because you're like, I go somewhere else.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And so the struggle wasn't, should I choose to go there or should I choose to go to Susanna? It was, how am I going to say this in a way that I won't get retaliated against
Right.
and cut off again?
Right.
Because the fact of the matter is that Susanna's been there for
When
everything.
you have not.
Right. When you have not. So do not force me to kick her to the curb because you decided this was the time you're going to come back around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to dick her over because this is the time where he says he's around this time. And you just don't get, what is it? You don't get free reign just because we're blood related.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair and it's not right. A lot of people struggle with that fact and that they have a hard time. And so I don't have an internal struggle with why I'm choosing my family because I've been through it.
Right.
With multiple people in my life. And so you don't have to convince me. I know what is true and Susanna is true. And so there's no way what I struggle with is how I'm going to let that person down.
And if you have to if there's a person where you constantly have to, how am I going to navigate you?
Yeah.
So that you don't have a meltdown, so that there's not something, then you end up not really wanting to really have a relate, because it's so much stress. As if I say this, is this how they're going to react? Or is it, you never know.
Yep.
And then you end up just not wanting to put yourself in that situation. So I'm just going to back out so I don't have to worry about that.
I also think the bigger difference is that we've put in the work and we have that respect, but we've had the experiences. I think aside from growing up with somebody in a house, and yes, you have those familial bonds because you've cohabitated for 18 fucking years. But I think when you form these relationships outside of your family, they're different because they go through, all these experiences with you, especially if as long as we've known each other.
Yeah.
And so we do come to the table with that respect, not the I'm your family.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. We don't have to work on this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that family that I spoke of that was so large, it fractured because it was a betrayal. And it was betrayal of one person on that side of the family. Now I look at it and I say, okay, I can understand that was their brother, their son. They're not going to kick them out.
Right.
It wasn't like, look, I get it. This is a messed up situation. This is wrong. He's my kid. It was simply, well, that's it. And there was another person involved in that also who was not blood related to any side. Well, that's our family now. And it was just like that. So all that since my grandmother was small, all that family like that was done. Mm-hmm. There was a line, you were over there, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And we didn't talk to most of them for a very, very, very long time until people started dying. But it was over very quick. It was like, you did this, I am not going to overlook it. And it was a pretty big fuck you to the one side. And then boom, gone, done. Just as easily as you're my family, you are not my family.
Mm-hmm. And so even when I have rifts within the family, pointedly, I will say, is this it? Are you saying we are done? Because this is not my choice. This is not what I want. I want to work through this. And then the ball is in that person's court, which is similar to what happened with my biological mother. I begged her, we can work this out. We can figure this out. She is the one that said no. Just like you mentioned with your one family member that you had to say, you get one shot. Like, you lay it out.
Yeah.
And if that is their choice, there's no ambiguity. There's no, I'm wondering what happened, or we just stopped talking. No, it was laid out.
Yeah. The outcome
didn't work out.
Yeah. The outcome's not ideal. But even just look at how you handled that particular situation with that person that you said, hey, you get one more shot.
Yeah.
You were still willing to engage. You were still willing to accommodate, even if you said, hey, no, we can't do this particular holiday because I'm going to Susanna's, but I can be there early, or maybe we can do it another
and that was
day.
Hey, let's do this, let's do that. But it was, no, I want this. Yeah. And you're not letting me have it. And then I'm going to have a tantrum for the 100th time.
Yeah.
And then at some point you realize, okay, this is who that person is. At this point in their life, this is who they are. And I'm not gonna, and even before that, it was always like, well, if we do something, you were waiting. You were
Waiting
just
for the
waiting
tantrum.
for something to happen because you knew that that was still at their core what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened. It did. Eventually it happened. And even if we were to work through that, I know it would again down the
It
line
happened.
have happened. So how many times do you just continue to allow it to happen?
And so even though, yes, you're my family and your brother is my family and your sisters are my family, and I truly 100% believe that they're my family, there are other people that you just hang out for 6 months and have their kid call you aunt and uncle. I do discern the difference between friendship and family.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does take a lot for me personally, and I think for you a lot, to consider
so.
somebody, to even more so to consider somebody family.
Yeah. I think that people see whatever this is and just think that, oh, you guys just made this. But I mean, it's been almost 30 years. It's
The
not
work.
like somebody just wandered in and like, oh, we know you for a couple years. Okay, you're in.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. There's literally a whole lifespan of time that has happened from then until now
Mm-hmm.
that you just can't hop into. You just
Right.
can't, boom, here I am.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, how many people have we seen die together?
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's so, unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not something you just get into,
Mm-hmm.
much like a regular family, which
Right.
you experienced.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, this is my friend. We're best friends. Oh, okay, come on in. No, it's not. I don't know you. You're you're a little sus. I've heard things about you. I'm going to see what goes
And
on.
I'm fantastic. It also, so you can still forge these relationships, and it doesn't have to be, the foundation doesn't have to be blood and
Yeah.
relation, because then there's also people that adopt children and marry into families, and you can still be just as close. Obviously, have proven that. But even I also get frustrated when people, because you and I have a son together,
Mm-hmm.
and you are his mother and I am his mother. There's no difference. It pisses me off when people treat you or talk about you or make a comment in a way that you are lesser than.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And so just because you did not have a bloodline connected to Asher doesn't make you any less of a mother. Does it bother you if somebody says anything or makes a comment like that? Or you just like, whatever, you just roll it off as their ignorance?
If there's someone who's not important to me, then I don't. You know, I guess the most person that Asher doesn't see it different.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody else does, then I don't give a fuck about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if someone within the group were to say something, I would let them know that was unacceptable in some manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I used to think it was so funny, and I would play it up more and more. But when Asher was younger and he would act like your mother or do something like her or eat a food like her, I'm like, yeah, you get that from her. That's all. It's all because of her. And she would say, yep, he did get it from me.
Yeah.
And sometimes she would do it accidentally.
Yes.
Like, because she really thought there was some sort of relation. And then and then we would just kind of make a face. Because Asher would play right along. He's like, yep, I got it from Meep. Meep is the one, and blah, blah, blah. and so I just thought it was the cutest thing ever.
But I mean, you can also just pick up mannerisms or habits because you live with people.
Yeah.
So-
Nurture versus nature, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, even I say stuff about Darcy to you. I'm like, well, she gets that from you. And there's no way she could really get that from you. But she's just, But Darcy's just a picky eater, like Tara is a picky eater. And she could take sometimes food or leave food. And, she has a lot of those, but they're just similar. But, you know, because we're all close, I'm like, well, that's all your fault, Tara.
Yeah.
I guess I got to blame somebody.
All right.
So what have we taken away from this?
What will be taken away? I think we are very good at perfecting our family.
She's got a family.
Family. And I am proud of the little family we have made. I really am. I think it's fantastic.
And it
And
took a
I-
lot of work.
Yep. And I think that whatever the old school way of thinking is that your blood is thicker than a bond made, but someone that doesn't share your bloodline is an antiquated way of thinking
Mm-hmm.
and that needs to be revisited.
Mhm.
And that if there is someone who is, even if it is your mother, and that seems to be
That's
Yes.
the
That's
main
kicker.
one. It's
Yeah.
like it's your
Parents.
mother. It's your mother. Your mother doesn't have carte blanche to treat you
like shit.
like shit, or just if it's a detriment to you to have a relationship with your mother, then you shouldn't have a relationship with your mother.
And that you shouldn't feel guilt. I mean,
Right.
you shouldn't let people make you feel guilty.
Yeah. You can feel sad that you
Right.
don't have that, but you should not have guilt. If you feel that you have tried your best
Yes.
and that there's just no breaking through, and that your mental health, physical health is affected by this person in a negative way, then you should break it off.
Mhm.
And people who tell you different, you should tell them to go suck it.
Because I do. I feel sad that I didn't have as strong of a bond like you had with your mother.
Mhm.
That does make me sad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sit here pining for her per se. I'm pining
For what you didn't get to have.
what I didn't have. Right.
And I think also it's important that if you have children and you have decided to continue that relationship, once you have a child, I think that if you have decided for yourself, I'm willing to take the abuse because that's my mother, I don't think that you should put that upon your child. If your mother, that child's grandmother, does not want to have a relationship or is not kind to that child for the sake of your child,
Yes.
don't push that. I see people push their kids into having relationships with people who don't give a fuck about you or your kids.
Mhm.
And your kids notice that.
Yes.
I have cousins who I was the favorite. And it was clear that I was the favorite of my grandmother, and it affected them.
Yeah.
And they weren't pushed to have a relationship. You know, we all had a relationship. It wasn't like there was it, and she wasn't cruel to them, but she was sometimes unaware of how obvious it was at certain times.
Yeah.
But yeah, if don't make your kids be around an asshole who's not gonna make them feel good about themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, because your view of family is not theirs, clearly.
Mhm.
And I think you have to accept that.
Yeah.
And to your point, especially when you have kids.
Yeah.
There's no reason to perpetuate certain things, right?
Right.
If you can change that cycle, then change it
Yeah.
Mhm.
for the better and teach what healthy relationships look like.
All right. Tootsie Rolls.
Okay then.
Be good to each other.
Until next time.
Yep. Follow us on all the socials. Tell us your thoughts. Be kind to your fellow friends that don't have relationships with blood people.
Blood people.
Blood people.
What the fuck is blood? I don't want relations with blood people.
Blood family. But don't make people feel bad.
Yes, if they have chosen to not speak to a relative, they must have an opinion or a reason, and it's none of your business. Shut up. I feel angry today.
You do. They're so spicy.
All right. Peace out, bitches.
Adios.